All I did was sniff around the edge. I can't imagine being in a target of one of those things. Cubby, remind me not to get shot with one of those, will you? Bowser, Bowser.
Go ahead, punk. Make my... Wait a minute. I might not be allowed to say that. Hey, Ron Spomer here, inviting you to subscribe to this channel and check us out on our website, ronspomeroutdoors.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Love to have your support. Now, today we're going to be reviewing an interesting self-defense mechanism that looks like a handgun, but really isn't. And why would you want one? I mean, for places you can't carry a real firearm, this might be legal and it might help save your life. This is called the Byrna HD Launcher. Now, the Byrna Launcher is essentially an air gun. It comes in a little kit like this. You open that flap, and inside you're gonna have the launcher, not a handgun, and you can see the CO2 cartridges. This is an air gun, and it launches 60 caliber pellets, and you can get an inert pellet that's just hard plastic, and yeah, good hard plastic is going to hurt. This should drive that about 600 to 700 feet per second, I believe. So that's going to put a hurt on somebody. Can be used to dissuade, but it's great for practice. You can also get inert pellets that have powder inside, and that'll give you an idea of what happens when you burst one of those against an assailant of any kind. There's no problem with it as far as having an active ingredient. This is the active ingredient one, Byrna Max, and it has a mix of tear gas, essentially, and capsaicin. That's that pepper spray. So I could see where this stuff would be pretty effective on most any attacker, two-legged or four. I'm not sure I'd want to try it against a grizzly bear, but it would sure beat a sharp stick in the eye. So there's the kit. It's got an instruction book in the back, of course, and all the things you need to get started, and it's really quite simple. I did not fool with this until yesterday. We tried to do some filming, and we had a pretty nice little show going until we realized the cameras were malfunctioning. So we got that fixed, and we're starting over today. But the point is, I want to show you how this thing works and let you decide whether you think it could be effective for your situation. I can see wearing this during hiking, out in the woods, at any place where you can't carry a real firearm in case rabid skunks and raccoons, coyotes, possibly a bear, possibly some nasty two-legged critter who might give you some trouble. So the Byrna HD, when I looked at that, I thought, HD, what does that stand for? Hot dang? High density? Boy, no, it's home defense. Makes perfect sense. And Byrna is actually a play on words too. Phonetically, burn-a, like that capsaicin burns, doesn't it, right? So Byrna, but they spell it B-Y-R-N-A. Kind of a nice way to help remember what this thing is and what it does. So as you can see, this looks pretty much like your standard auto-loading Glock-style handgun. But it's not a firearm, so it may be legal in places where a firearm is not. That's one of its major features. So in keeping with that platform, we have a magazine release on the side. Quite familiar stuff right there. You do not slide the top because that's not how it functions. You need to insert that little cylinder of air. CO2 cylinder goes inside this underneath the barrel. And that's what drives these pellets. So to access that, you have to open this little circle right here, and you can see there's a little Allen socket in there, and I can turn it with my finger when it's fairly loose like this to get it out, but I thought, man, what if it's tight? Turns out that they have the Allen screw built right in to the base of the magazines. So you put that in, loosen it up, and then once it starts to come out, you can easily get it with your fingers and open it. So we now have access to the chamber in which our power source lives. I thought when I first saw this, how am I going to drop that in there, keep the gas in? It must get punctured when I turn the cap in. But it doesn't. You can turn the cap in, keep the cylinder inside, and it won't be punctured and activated until you pull the trigger. And you can either pull the trigger with it on safe or off safe, it'll still puncture that and you'll be ready to roll. So the idea there is that you can constantly keep a cylinder inside and be ready without losing gas over time. Yesterday when I put a cylinder in this morning, about 20 hours after, it was still active. Didn't seem like it had quite as much power, so it was losing a little bit. I don't know how many days it would last, haven't had time to test that. But it's good to know that you can keep a full cylinder in there until you pull that trigger, you haven't punctured it. So we have our cylinder in. It says not to over tighten it, but obviously you want it tight enough so you're not going to be losing the screw with vibrations. And now I can pull that trigger and nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? Well, I have it on safe. Just like a 1911, you've got a side lever safety, and it's ambidextrous each side. Once I pull that down, I have now pulled the trigger and punctured that CO2, so this thing should fire. So we're gonna go down here. I've got a little mat in the background. Oh yeah, nothing's coming out. Why is that? Because I haven't loaded it yet. So we drop our magazine out, and now we'll show you how to load that. I lost one of these inert plastic balls yesterday, and I'm down to 4, but this holds 5. And you can see this little black lever here, spring loaded. There's the spring, one on each side. So you just press down through that, and when that pops up, it holds the balls. When I first did this, I managed to do that and lost them all. I'll go pick those up and we'll get back to doing it right. So there is an indicator that the ball is chambered. So if this is popped up, that's not the sight, the sight's back here. If that's popped up, it means you have a ball in and ready to fire. To remove a ball from the chamber, not that it's really a chamber, you just push down and it drops the ball out the bottom. And there it goes. So ball in and it pops up. Magazine out, push the ball out, unloaded. So that is how you empty the chamber if you don't want to be carrying with around inside. But given, look at that, I did right. Now it popped up, down and up. So that's your indicator to let you know you're loaded. So keep it on safe and you should be able to carry like that and then draw and fire. So I've got it punctured. We've shot it. Anytime I need to fire, all I have to do is drop that safety. And you can really feel the trigger. Heavy, not too heavy, but, and then it comes back and reaches the point at which you can tell it's about to break, and that is right there. See how much pull I've got before it breaks? Let me get rid of that last one so I don't lose it. Now you can see it's down, so we know we're out. Now I'll pull that trigger and we just release some air. It's a long trigger pull. There it is. So you can imagine with those balls coming out of there, that velocity, if you have one that explodes and releases that gas, it's going to be pretty distressful. I've seen some videos of guys taking a hit. Oh man, it doesn't look like fun any which way you slice it. And they're out for about 20 minutes, just can't breathe. And obviously their eyes aren't working very well. They're watering. It's something terrible. So I think it could be a pretty effective tool. Whether or not it has enough capsaicin and or tear gas in it for a grizzly bear charge, I don't know. But I've tried those grizzly spray canisters, and man, they are slow to use and they're difficult to practice with because you open it up and spray it, and now you've just blown $50 or so, and you've got to get another one. And you have to keep that thing handy, and it's got a safety you have to pull off, and it takes 2 hands, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, they're great to have around, but this would be a lot handier, I should think. So it comes with, or it doesn't come with, but you can get an optional holster. This one, let me see, this is a paddle style, and I think it's from, take it off my belt here and see what we've got. Army Ant Gear. It's your typical plastic holster. You can adjust the tension to hold it as hard or lightly as you want, but I think it's a fairly good way to carry, especially out hiking where you can keep it outside of your clothing. In town, if you're trying to do concealed carry with this, you'd have to have a pretty good sized overcoat to do it. But if you need a device like this, you probably want to try that. Well, if you like big bores, this is definitely a large caliber. I think it's right around 60 caliber. Big hole, I think just staring down that bore would be enough to intimidate most folks. On the bottom of the Byrna are these Picatinny rail slots on which you can mount a flashlight, which is pretty nice for blinding any assailant, or a red dot sight, laser sight. Pretty handy, pretty simple. Get a crimson trace and clamp it on there and you're ready to go. But I think a flashlight would be really handy. So you have different color markers to designate which are the live rounds with the Capsaicin tear gas versus the inert rounds that you can practice with. Red, to me, spells capsaicin and tear gas. But let's just go over this device one more time. It looks like an auto-loading handgun. It is not a firearm. You should be able to carry it in areas where firearms are not allowed. It has a safety on the side, much like a 1911 and several other handguns. And it has the indicator that lets you know there's a ball in there. So the way I would carry this is in a holster or in a big pocket. And if I needed it, pull that baby out and keep a cartridge, a CO2 cartridge in there that has not been punctured, and it'll last for essentially forever. So if you do need it in an emergency to stop an attack of any kind, you then pull the trigger one time, that punctures it. Every time you pull the trigger after that, you launch a ball, so long as you have your magazine loaded. So I would carry with 5 in there. When I pop them in, the one ball would indicate right on that indicator that it's in the chamber ready to fire. All it needs is the gas. One trigger pull, the gas is ready. Second trigger pull launches that ball, and the next 4 with 4 more trigger pulls. Pretty simple. And if you wanted backup, you can carry additional magazines. So I could have this one loaded as well, drop one out, shove the other one in, and be ready to roll again. As long as that CO2 lasts, you're in business. Now let's go out to the range and do some test shooting on it. See how accurate it is. It's supposed to be accurate out to about 60 feet. Seems pretty far, but we'll see what it'll do. Obviously, you're going to probably use this closer to 20 feet. I don't think you want an assailant to get much closer than about 15 feet, or it's going to be on you before you can even react. So we'll just see how well it does, and then we'll shoot some of the pellets, the inert ones that raise a cloud of dust, and then we might launch 1 or 2 of these pepper balls and just see what they smell like at a distance. I'm not going to shoot myself or my cameraman or anybody else around here, not even Covey, with one of those things. Still. All right, I'm just going to try to shoot for accuracy, and I'm going to shoot at the top of the orange at the number 5 because there's a nice hole in the back. Boy, that's a trigger that takes a little practice. All right, shot a little bit to the left. Covey's going for the kill. All right, looks like I've got one more left. Now, that's down. The indicator is down. That should mean that I'm empty. Magazine is empty. Nothing but air left in it. Let's go see how we did. Well, I'm not going to win any international target matches, but I got the assailant. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 2 of them probably went through right there, but can't tell for sure. No, that's just one hole. I don't know. Might have missed with one, but who knows for sure. Still, for 20 feet, you're going to be hitting your target. I like it. Well, now what I'm going to do is shoot from 40 feet. I'm going to take the head on the left target. 40 feet, let's just see how many we can keep in there, see how well this does at a longer distance. I would think I'd want my assailant a little closer just to prove that he's really coming after me, but let's see what happens. Yeah, I think we're running out of gas here. Yeah, this is really puping out now. Yep. Ran out of gas. Did you hear that? Wasn't much. Just a little. So I'll put a fresh cartridge in and we'll shoot again at 40 feet. See what we can do. Now, obviously, here's the expended one. There's your puncture in the end of the CO2. Got a fresh CO2 cartridge. We'll drop it in and we'll turn it. Gives us a good opportunity to go over that process again, because it kind of surprised me. Usually when you tighten the CO2, you puncture it.
All right, here's our second attempt with a full charge CO2 cartridge at 40 feet. Let's see how well it does. Oh yeah. Haha. That looked like it had a little more power to it. Well, that's pretty impressive right there. 40 feet, looks like I hit here. Another one's here. Boy, I can't see all of them all. But I never missed a man-sized target from 20 feet up to 40 feet. Maybe we should try a 60-footer. All right, now I'm at 60 feet. I'm expecting quite a bit of drop, so I am going to aim at the head. We'll see what happens. I'll hit someplace. Pretty consistent. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I didn't know if it would have enough energy to break those pellets and send that dust out, but if that had been capsaicin and tear gas, somebody was going to get a face full. That's pretty impressive. 60 feet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, I'm impressed with this little shooter right here. Raised some dust for sure. These are 3, that's pretty darn good accuracy. 1, 2, 3, and I was shooting fairly quickly. Especially in the last 2, those must have been the last 2, but. Well, you saw the burst of powder. Imagine if that was capsaicin or tear gas. I don't think you'd feel too good if you were sucking that up. And you can see the powder right up here in his face. And it'll come on in here and you'll see the dust. I'll wipe it off. Ouch. Well, fun and games are over, folks. It's time for the real medicine right here. The tear gas capsaicin capsules. And they are green and blue, which kind of surprises me. I would think they'd want to make those red as a warning and also signifies hot. But we're going to work with whatever we got here and just see how hot they really are. So maybe they don't have these red because you'll confuse them with the red stop in the bottom of the magazine here. So remember, blue and green spell trouble. You don't want to pop one of these in your pocket. I wonder just how hard they are, too. I should probably whack one with a hammer or a board and see what it takes to break it. Ooh, boy. Don't know if I want to shoot all of these, but we're going to send some down there onto that plywood and just see what it smells like. Now, there goes dust. I think if you get that stuff in your eyes, you're not going to like it. Whew. All I did was sniff a little bit around the target where some of the powder had landed, and it's already burning my nose. And I'm sniffling, and I feel a little scratchy in my throat. I can't imagine getting blasted by that full charge. So capsaicin and tear gas mixture, pretty effective stuff. Wow. Well, that's my review of the Byrna HD Launcher. Pepper gas, this pretty nifty stuff. You know, I like this so much that I think it would be a pretty effective training aid for regular handgun use. You know, it's not the ideal trigger, but you can always adjust to a real trigger later. The accuracy of it, though, suggests you could shoot indoors in your basement with those inert pellets and the plastic balls and do pretty well. It's a good little training aid, but it's amazingly accurate out to 60 feet. I haven't taken it beyond that, but the way it was shooting on that last target, it wouldn't surprise me if it would do that well at 80. It wasn't even really dropping much at that distance. So pretty impressive. If you're looking for a non-lethal defense tool, this would definitely be one to consider. Now make sure it's going to be legal in your jurisdiction. There are plenty of cities and counties and states even that really try to limit what you can and cannot carry for self-defense, but you should be able to keep this in your home at least. And remember, it's not lethal, but anything firing a projectile could prove to be lethal at some point, so always use it with extreme caution. I would treat this the same as any other firearm, even though it is not a firearm. use safety at all times. I think it would be quite adequate in the field. I would carry it openly like this out in the fields hiking and whatnot, but be aware that a lot of people are going to mistake this for a real handgun. So you might freak some people out. You might get stopped a lot by the police and park authorities. So make sure it's legal to have one of these wherever you're using it. And then I think you are going to feel quite safe. Practice and use those Capsaicin tear gas pellets, and you've got a pretty fine defense right there on your hip. I'm Ron Spomer. I'm inviting you to like this YouTube channel and join us at ronspomeroutdoors.com. We have a lot of in-depth articles there on guns, ballistics, shooting outdoors, nature, natural history, hunting tactics, anything that has to do with the outdoors. You'll also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and I like to remind everyone to please hunt honest and shoot straight.